we are back with FPL Blank Gameweek 29. We have lots to discuss today. There are a couple of very juicy matchups that you cannot ignore, and obviously it's a blank game week. So, what fixtures should you target? Which blankers to replace with which players? So we'll go through a lot of content today. Um, let's just get into it. First of all, we'll discuss the game week 29 matchups. Then we'll pick. We have some like juicy fixtures to target, and then which players to target for those juicy fixtures. One disclaimer I'll sort of give here is that we already did a free hit special video. So if you want to special content on free hit, go look at that. In this video, our general strategy is to cover game week 29 plus like keeping game week 30 in consideration because all three of us are looking at a wildcard window of 31. So our thinking is right now to get players looking at game week 29 plus 30. So players to target for 29 and 30, and then we'll touch upon is Haaland necessary, and if yes, how to sort of make funds for him. And then we'll go through FPL Eagle's Eye, which is our punts for this week, which we really think would work out. Historically, we've been doing this for 4 or 5 weeks, and it's been going pretty well. We've had a couple of successes as well, so do watch out for that. And lastly, we'll discuss our team selections, what transfers we are making, and what's our plan. So that's sort of the agenda for today. And if you're still watching, please give us a like and a subscribe so that it helps our algorithm as well. And without wasting any time, let's get into it. Like first of all, very briefly, guys, how was your game week 28? Quick recap.
पुनीत आई थिंक आप अपना बता सकते हैं पहले जो
I
हुआ था
I
हैंड हुआ था.
I rather not talk, man. I've lost a lot of rank just because I um didn't go against Salah. So this is a very important learning, right? For anyone who is trying to catch up rank, if you go against someone who has an EO as big as Salah and people are captaining him, you could end up losing 300, 400k, which has happened in my case, versus it could take you 2, 3 weeks to kind of, or even more than that, to kind of gain that kind of rank. So yeah, so not a great game week, 44 points. I was trying to captain Palmer, ended up doing Trent. But yeah, hopefully a
How
better
did
game week
that
this time.
happen, bro?
I mean,
Anyways, let's not get
terrible
into the
story,
details,
yeah.
but it was
Still a better captaincy choice than Palmer.
Oh yeah, with the
definitely
penalty miss,
fingers
my
crossed.
god.
Yes.
So
For
yeah,
me,
that's
like it
pretty
was
much
a
it.
decent week. I had Watkins was my differential who performed, who gave some returns. Enzo also had an assist. Clivert had 5 pointer. Clivert could have had one more goal. One goal was ruled offside. One goal he hit the post, so it could have been a massive haul against Tottenham. So sort of missed on that, but still decent. And then Kirkes also had an assist, so 4 points from him. So even though I had like four players returning, only a small green, but I'll take it. Essen?
Yeah, I think my only contributions apart from Salah were from Bruno, and apart from that, it was just like 2-1, 2-0, 2-1. So couldn't really do much. Palmer obviously had the missed penalty. Had he probably scored, so I would have been closer to the safety score. But yeah, I think just one of those weeks where you take the points and just move on.
Yeah, fair. Um, cool. Let's get into this week. These are the Rob T numbers, guys. Anything to sort of call out here?
The
Uh,
first, the first observation for me was City and Bournemouth both are the only two teams which are scheduled for 2+ goals. So if you are targeting players, these are your targets. Again, not to your targetable teams are your Ipswich, Wolves, and Southampton. Sorry, Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester. And you can see United, Forest, and Wolves both don't have like even 2 goals. So not so positive in that sense. So those were the first observations.
I think even though obviously these are just projections, but I do believe that some matches are like heavily understated in the sense that I feel that Tottenham Fulham game, given that it's probably sort of a derby also, And even the Brentford and Bournemouth game are very open and can be very high scoring goals from both sides, not just one sided, where you expect the likes of Man City versus Brighton, you would feel that Man City would overpower Brighton. In the case of Nottingham Forest overpowering Ipswich also. So while I think 1.3, for example, Brentford scoring like just around a goal, even though Bournemouth has a good defense, but I feel that Brentford, with the likes of Wissa, Shada, and Bomo, I think it can be like a very high scoring game. And even the Arsenal Chelsea game, it's heavily in favor of Arsenal. I agree, given that they're playing at home and they have the form. But I do feel that it can be an explosive game where you can expect both sides to sort of go for it and not just try to park the bus and go for like a nil-nil draw or something. So yeah, definitely an exciting game week where four big teams are not participating. It just goes to show that the other 16 are going to be like under like a more heavy microscope, and you would obviously want to see some players where you would feel like gaming 30, 31, where most would want to wildcard and dead end their teams. So I think it's an exciting game week to come, and let's see how it unfolds.
It's our first time to own players that we haven't all season, just because of
Yeah.
the blank. So, uh, yeah, I think you guys pretty much covered it all. Uh, Coming on to the juicy fixtures, yes, and which attacking wise, like obviously, as you mentioned, a lot of players are looking to dead end your team by 30 or 31 when they wildcard. So, which fixtures should they target purely from an attacking point of view?
I think the four teams that we've added here they pretty much covered the gist of this game week. We all know Bournemouth at home are a very prolific team, and even though from an FPL's point of view, all of their goals are mostly shared by their front four or five, and it's just sort of like a roulette which one you pick. You could obviously have Clivert in your team, and you can see Semenyo scoring a brace, or you can see even Nilsson scoring a brace, or even Otara, where like I have Dango, and I'm probably going to sell him, but he can obviously come on from the bench and score. So don't and similarly the likes of Ipswich also their front four Gibbs White, Elanga, Hudson and Wood all often more often than not pitch in with the goals. So it's good that if you are on free hit, you could have double or triple from each team. You guys spoke about the free hit drafts and players to target in your fixture. So those on a free hit can obviously pick the likes of Clivert, Semenyo, and even Ilsel like a triple uh, Bournemouth attack as opposed to getting a defender because you might expect Brentford to score in Bomo Visa. So and with City, it's always Haaland your first pick, and people are going for the likes of Guardiola also just because he practically plays as a left winger sometimes. When City I have gone in all out attack. So I think these four teams pretty much cover the main gist of this game week, and you could probably have some other players just like Bruno. He's in very red hot form, and some other players which we'll discuss later. But I think these four teams, if you have players already, so they are an easy hold. But if you have transfers to spare, then you could probably look at the players we discuss later on and try to get them in your team, and not just for Gaming 29, for other game weeks also. They are easy holds.
Fair, fair. Puneet, any other fixture to call out apart from these four for this week that you're targeting?
No, not really. Only the Spurs could get a little bit leaky, but no, I mean, you don't know who to target in Fulham. But other than that, I think these four are your fixtures to target, especially if you're thinking free hit and players to, hold from these four teams.
Yep. And again, it's important to sort of again look at 29 plus 30 together. We'll keep saying that again and again. But yeah, because Bournemouth has both fixtures are nice. They have Brentford and Ipswich at home, and then City as well. You have Brighton at home, and then Leicester at home as well. So whatever whoever you get from these teams, especially, you hold them for 2 weeks, easy. Moving on to again from the teams that you highlighted, SN, which players again are you targeting, and what's sort of the thought process?
Okay, what we've tried to do in these slides is to have the obvious picks, but also like a spicy pick where you can try to have some fun and not just try to stick to the template. So starting off with Nottingham Forest, I think Chris Wood is a no-brainer. He is probably a potential captain in this game week, given the fact that your usual Salah, Isaac, uh, are obviously not playing in this game week. So he hasn't scored for a few games, and I think Ipswich away, with no disrespect to Ipswich, I think it's a good fixture where he can be back amongst the goals. And similarly, he's like a focal point of attack. Elanga, Morgan Gibbs White, like I said earlier, they're nailed for minutes. They're obviously involved in the build up, and I think both of them are on set pieces also. So maybe if not a goal, they can probably chip in for an assist for whenever, uh, maybe like a corner or set piece for Chris Wood.
Who
Defensively, I think
who
it's a good.
which set pieces do they take? Like
I think
Ilanga or
Elanga is on corners, and Gibbs White is on your typical free kicks.
free kicks? Okay.
Yeah.
At penalties, I'm
Uh,
assuming it's Chris Wood.
yeah, for penalties, I'm assuming it's Chrisford, and if he's not on the pitch, which is very rare, I think Gibbs White steps up for the penalties. So, and similarly, Ola Aina, even though he's like 5.3, Milinkovic is offers, uh, both of them offer returns on both ends of the pitch, and they are nailed. As opposed to, I think I came across some stat where Morello did start majority of the games, but compared to Aina and Milinkovic, I think he had 1 or 2 games less. And if
Yeah, I have one quick stat on defenders.
yeah,
I posted this quick analysis yesterday on our Twitter account. So in the last 11 weeks, Molina has started 10 out of 11. The rest of the
yeah,
three have started all 11 out of 11. Attack wise, all of them had like less than 0.15 XGI. So attack wise, they're not really amazing. And all of them had like on average 4 to 4.7 points per 90. So
hmm,
my conclusion on the defenders was literally like pick any of them, cheaper the better, I think, because return wise more or less they're the same, because their returns come from defensive numbers rather than attacking, as they are a
yeah.
solid team defensively.
Yeah, sounds good. So if budget is an issue, you could probably go for the likes of Murillo and Williams. I think they're around 4.4, 4.5 maybe. And if your budget is not an issue, then you can go for the likes of Milinkovic or Olaina. I think people would probably looking to replace Hall. So one of those, or even all four, can be a good shout. And lastly, the spicy pick is Hudson Odoi. He's been scoring some great goals as of late, and he's in very good form. I think he's primarily playing on the left wing, but I do see them switch up in between matches. I think the recent goal he scored was from the right wing against City, when he beat the keeper and the near post. And he's probably going under the radar also because whenever you think of Nottingham Forest assets, you probably go immediately like to Gibbs White or Wood because they're more established. Hudson Odoi and Elanga recently in this season have become your go-to assets. So I think that these probably 4, 6 players cover your basic Nottingham Forest assets, whether you already have them or you plan to get them either on a free hit or on a permanent transfer. Moving on to Wolves, they're playing, I think, one of the weakest teams without a doubt in the league. And even though the name should have been Cunha, but due to his red card, he's not here. Otherwise, he would have been a very obvious pick. Given the fact that Cunha is not there, I think Strand Larson becomes the focal point, and he is also a cheap option. So you can probably, if you have the likes of Mateta, if you haven't moved him on, maybe you can try to get him for 1 week. He becomes a focal point. He's back from injury recently and looks well rested and might be on penalties too. I'm not really sure about who is on pens for Wolves. I don't think they've been awarded a penalty recently, or maybe I'm just not following. So it's possible that he might be on penalties. Aid Nouri is obviously a no-brainer. He plays as a left wing back and sometimes as a left wing also. And likewise, your Nottingham Forest defenders, he offers returns on both ends of the pitch. Uh, Puneet was speaking about Bellegarde, and I added him here just for that very reason, because he plays in the midfield pivot, and we've seen him often going forward and try to pitch in with a goal or two. And similarly, Joao Gomez does the same also. I checked their differentials. I think Joao Gomez was owned by only 0.4%. I'm not sure if they are active managers or inactive managers, but if on a free hit, definitely you can consider both of them. So I think these two teams, we pretty much covered their basic players, and depending on your risk appetite and budget, you can try to go for any of them, whatever just floats
One
your
point
boat.
on Wolves though, and let me know what you guys think. But I think like since Cunha has left, Cunha is not just their attacker, like goal scorer, but he also is their creative
Yeah,
outlet. So without Cunha in their team, I think like I'm not sure, we don't have that much data on it, but I think their overall creative output output and goal output is impacted because he literally takes the ball from midfield, dribbles past two players, and
Yeah,
assists or scores, right?
that.
So
Yeah,
hence, like,
exactly.
yeah,
His Liverpool
it's
goal
for
was
me,
just like
there's a
that.
question
How you
mark on
describing?
Wolves' assets.
Hmm. The goal he scored against Liverpool, you saw where he was. He didn't like score it from the box. He dropped deep. He was involved in the build-up, and then from the edge of the box, he actually scored that goal. So even though Cunha does have a big impact, but I think for some Southampton away, I think you can give the benefit of the doubt to other Wolves players to try and maybe contribute towards attacking returns.
I think one point on Wolves, and sorry, Forest is like we've been mentioning. You, if you buy them now, you can almost think of them as season keepers or at least close to 7, 8 game weeks because they are going for top four. So, and yeah,
Yeah.
the rest of the picks do make sense.
Yes.
That's a fair call out. Moving on to, I think, the two teams which have the best two attacking fixtures in 29 plus 30. Um,
Yeah. And I think they're playing at home, so that obviously helps. We talked about how prolific Bournemouth are at home, and you have some obvious names. We'll start with Clivert. He can obviously be a potential captain. He plays as the number 10. He's involved in almost every build-up. Arsalan, you spoke about him getting just an assist in the last game, but he had a goal chalked off and he hit the bar also. So you can see that how involved he is. And if you're going for a differential or chasing rank, he can be your captain also at the expense of the likes of Wood or Haaland.
yep.
Similarly, Semenyo and Tavernier. Tavernier actually is back and he scored. I think Clivert assisted him if I'm not mistaken in the last game. And because of him being back, Dango is on the bench now and opt for Evan Nielsen also. I expected Dango to start actually, but obviously Raola prefers Tavernier. So both of them you can go for Semenyo. I think Semenyo people will already have, so he's an easy hold. I think I saw him in the training pictures Bournemouth release. So I think that his
Yeah,
injury concern is not a
yeah,
concern anymore.
he's back.
For defensive, even though I do expect Brentford to score, but you can still they are a stronghold because of they play Ipswich at home next. So if you're offering to offload maybe a Trent who's injured or a Hall who's injured, you can probably get Kerkez or Hoyson depending on your risk appetite and your budget. And lastly, the spicy pick is Evan Nielsen. Before his injury, he was playing regularly. I think he was on a good goal scoring also. But ever since he's back, he's back straight into the starting, and he's starting to score also. So I think he offers a great route into your attack as maybe your eighth attacker, given the fact he's under 6 million, and he's also maybe if you have a benching headache, I think you don't mind benching a 5.5 million attacker. So I think he can be a good pick for your bench and for the games that Bournemouth do have good fixtures. And lastly, I think on City,
Like before
uh,
City, as in on Bournemouth
yeah,
only. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
for people who own Dango, Puneet, maybe let you go first. Like for people who own Dango, like should they hold on to him and like say, sort of first bench, or do you think a sideways move to a Clivert or a Evan Nielsen um, is worth it?
If you are taking a hit for him just for this game week, no, because I feel that -4, -8 is not worth changing from say a Dango to a Clivert or even like someone else if you want to. If you are able to keep him first bench, nothing like it. If you are able to, the only reason I would see, because he is going to get some minutes, it's not that he's not going to. So maybe if he's your 11th attacker, I'm okay with that. I don't feel, in my experience in having played for a number of seasons, your 11th attacker, or if you have like anywhere between 9 plus 10 attackers or 10 players for a blank game week, you're fairly good. If he's your 11th attacker, you shouldn't take a hit for him, is where I am. If
But then
if
also
you
like in these two best fixtures that they have, um, you might not have a Bournemouth attacker at all. Like if he's on your bench and if you don't have Clivert or Evan Nielsen, Semenyo, you don't have a Bournemouth cover. Then in that case,
Oh, in that case you do take him. So because then you're thinking of 2, 3 game weeks, right? Because then say you're doing a Dango to Clive Dango to Semenyo, then you're taking him from at least for 28, 29, 30, and maybe even 31. So uh, if he's the only player that you have in your squad, like from the Bournemouth, then yes, you move sideways to get one more because they will, again, like City and Brighton, Bournemouth are also in the European context. They will not want to finish below eighth. So
Yeah,
an attacker is definitely a player to look for.
fair. Evan Nielsen, I think, is a really good shout. He's a
Yeah.
very good addition who's back, and he is clearly preferred by the manager. He's right
Yeah,
back in the team. So
exactly.
on a free hit, especially amazing. Like you should buy him if you can. Okay, moving on to
Okay.
City. I can cover City. In fact,
Yeah, yeah, of
the
course.
City is obviously playing Brighton at home, and then Leicester at home. Um, Adding some context to it, like last week, the City has a full week of rest. They've had a full week of rest. They have two home games, which means they will be in Manchester all the time. And this does matter, especially because there's so many injuries and Pep Guardiola is switching teams. If there's enough gap between matches, I think City will play better overall as a team as well. Hence, these are like this is the team to target in my opinion for the next two game weeks. Haaland, obviously, lots of short shouts in social media about getting Haaland. He's obviously the best striker with the most predicted points in the next two game weeks. No question on that. He is your potential captain. 100%. Like if the best attacker, best predicted points, hence the potential captain as well. He is the most nailed asset in the team. I think like 90 minutes he will play every game. I think he wouldn't be benched. We are out of the UCL as well, so there's not a lot of distractions anyways. And the only midweek fixture that we have in near future is against Bournemouth, um, which is next week. Uh, so yeah, Haaland is a no-brainer if you can afford him without breaking your team. Like if it makes sense for you. Number two, Guardiol. Guardiol again from defensive point of view, City aren't great, but Guardiol's attacking numbers are amazing. So he's the best. He's the most scoring defender in the game this season. I think he's Man City's third or fourth most goals scored player.
He has
Players
five,
scored
I
the
think,
most
right?
goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then if City keeps a clean sheet, which they almost did in the last game against Nottingham as well, apart from that Edison mistake, they could have had a clean sheet. So that's like a bonus as well. And the spicy pick that we have here are Foden and Savinho. How I would suggest going about them is wait for a City league before the game week deadline. So generally you get City leagues right before the deadline. So if you see that Savinho or Foden have started, um, they are they are a very nice pick to own. Both of their numbers are more or less similar when it comes to Foden and Savinho. Um, Personally, I would prefer Savinho over Foden because Savinho has been more nailed on for minutes lately,
Yeah.
and also his underlying data is good. He hasn't had enough conversions, hence his overall points haven't been great. So two good fixtures at home could be the right game for them to sort of spark that form again. But again, the most nailed players are Haaland and Guardiola, and then Foden and Savinho will probably see them getting subbed in or subbed out at some time in the game. Anything else to sort of call out here for City players? Yes.
Uh, just one point on the ceiling that we talk, right? Between all the clubs that are now targeting Europe, I feel City have the highest ceiling. Europe meaning top four, top six. Uh, because if you think of someone who wants to come back, Pep would want to finish the season well. And if some team can score 3 goals, 2 goals, or 2+ goals regularly, City is your team. I mean, with the likes of Bournemouth, Brighton, these may or may not score 2+ goals regularly, but City might, and hence holding on to those players. So, like, ceiling players are mostly in cities where your, uh, eyesight should be.
Which sort of takes us to the next natural question, which is Erling Haaland. Should you get him? Should you not get him? If you should get him, how should you get him? Essen, you want to take this one? Oh, sorry, Puneet.
Yeah, yeah.
Puneet, yeah, I
So
think Puneet.
we, yeah, so this is a good point because we discussed this a little bit during our free hit video as well, which Arslan was talking. The reason of getting him right now, and like we've just given you a bit of context as well into why Pep and City would want to finish in the top four, finish well. Uh, Now that they are out of Europe, they are looking to win FA Cup, come in top four. They would want uh, to score as many number of goals as they can. The reason being they have been a bit defensively susceptible. Um, that means you would want to have as many attackers as possibly you can. Now, that is point number one. Point number two, and you can see in the first 2 points that you have mentioned that they're predicted to score the most points. They are now well rested because of their European ambitions. Um, also now you're thinking about captaincy, right? Now look at the next four, five, six captaincy in terms of whether you want to captain Salah, whether you want to captain Palmer, and your third biggest asset in the game as always, or like till last season he was the first, but even in today's game, even with the form that he's at, you would still give Haaland as your third ceiling captain. Like if you would fear him, that's I always think like that, which means if you fear a Salah, like I'll give my own example. I was fearing the fact that if he scores one or two, I knew that the rank would be that bad. It's because of his EO, but you also know that he has the capability. Who has the capability? Erling Haaland has the capability. He will get you 2 goals when in form, and that 2 goals will spiral or like will spike your rank like anything else. So that is where you see point number four, where you think that a Marmoush could cover up, you think that a Foden, you think that a Savinho can, and the answer is, and Arslan has seen this more than I have, but the answer is they don't, because when he is in form, you've seen this early in the season, like I think top 6, 7 games when City had started excellently well, he even in tough games, like even in the likes of City, Arsenal, he scored two um, at so against Arsenal, and one of the toughest defenses in the league. So he has that capability, and that is where you fixture, and that is where you want him on. And the last 2 points, and we've discussed the last point, but the fixtures right now are absolutely plumb. Like they would want to play Brighton, and then they go to Leicester. Leicester are the lowest in XGC conceded, uh, and they barely attack. So with those kind of fixtures that you have seen, you would want to target these teams, and if you are able to, so how do you get it? Just one quick point on this. If you are able to get him without a -8, I think he makes a lot of sense. And I say -8 because at a -4 he will cover for you in Leicester itself. So I want to leave at that. And Arslan and Ehsan, please, and Arslan, maybe you first. What do
Yeah,
you reckon of this?
trailing question. So -4 and -8, that's totally fine. I think the bigger concern and the question is who should you how do you get the funds? So you'll have to sell either Salah, Palmer, Isak, Trent. These are your cash cows, and I'll put an argument for like a few of them. Trent is an easy sell, so right? He's injured. You can sell him, fund some, get some money. But um, Salah after this game, like obviously they are also out of UCL. Same argument applies for Liverpool as well. They just don't have the doubles in 33 that City might. But Salah also has no UCL, so he'll play every single game 90 minutes, even with UCL and with 2 day breaks. He has been playing, and with a 190% or 200% EO on his captaincy week, like without even captaincy, 98% EO, right? Uh, so Salah then becomes very important for me. In my opinion, he shouldn't be sold. If they qualified in the UCL, Salah might be an easier sell. Right now, I don't think he is. So that's one thing. Then Palmer, we discussed Palmer. Palmer is out of form, so I think he is one of your contenders to sort of get some funds. But again, Palmer has Brentford, and then he has, sorry, Arsenal, and then he has Tottenham. So Tottenham is a very good fixture for him, and then Yeah, he also has Brentford, in fact, next game week. So fixture wise, not bad, but form is lacking. So maybe an easier sell than Salah, at least for me. And then Isak, the biggest issue for me for Isak is I have 1 million tied up in him. So if I rebuy him, I'll basically lose like zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.6 time team value. And then 32 they double, and then uh, they they have decent fixtures as well. So hence selling Isak becomes a bit difficult for me as well. And like I think for a lot of users who bought Isak like initially. So how both of you like how are you making funds for Haaland? Like not for you specifically, but broader conversation for all our viewers.
Okay, one interesting point, Salah ka you, I totally understand what you said, and I agree because I have him, and selling him is just feels very weird. And plus, just after, like you said, Haaland has Leicester at home. I think game week 30, Liverpool have Everton at home. So that's not a bad fixture at all. You can captain him easily, and you just said they're out of UCL. They play the final on Sunday, so if they win that final, I think motivation will be sky high. And if not, I think it will be because then the only silverware left, I think, for them would be the league, which is pretty much tied up, but still. And you have that in the back of your mind that this most probably will be Salah's last season. So selling him feels very weird. On
Yep,
Palmer, even though he does feel like a cash cow, just one point that I want to remind you is that maybe after the international break, we're expecting Saka to be back. And I know that he won't be into the team straight away, given his fitness and all. But given that Arsenal's fixtures, and they are probably going to give Liverpool, or at least try to secure second place, I think Saka becomes a very interesting pick also. And an easy route would be to just sell Palmer if he is not performing by then. You would
that's an
want a
excellent
11
point.
million
I don't
asset.
think
Yeah,
anyone's considering Saka right now, and he will be
exactly.
back
So
soon.
it's
So
one to
that's
keep
an
an eye on
excellent
for
point
sure.
actually. If there's any chance of Arsenal competing for the league title, if Liverpool drops and like they have to keep winning, right? So Saka would
Yeah,
be,
it's just
yeah,
every.
that's a good point, man.
Yeah, and I think Arsenal are in the UCL also, no? Even though they're against Madrid, but they're still in the UCL. So if for some odd reason they progress, so Saka would be more motivated to jump into the team and start performing. So they just want to give I am, but for example, I have Bruno, so I can obviously go from Bruno to Saka. It's not an issue. But those who only have like the likes of Palmer and Salah and have other cheap mids playing, uh, so they can try to move Palmer on for Saka. And by the time Saka is back, Palmer would have gone through some tough fixtures like Brentford, Tottenham, and Arsenal. And if he's not performing, then he becomes an easier sell. So just one thing to keep an eye on.
So, Essen, like, what are you in get Haaland camp or don't get Haaland and keep Palmer and Salah and Isak, let's say?
Yeah, I think the only way I can get him is probably be on a wild card because that was the time I took him out in game week 12 when I took him out in Cotton Salah. So I think a wild card makes sense because it would give me time to actually see like one or two goals, or maybe for example, if Haaland scores three goals across Leicester at home and Brighton at home, then you could be like, yeah, I have to hit the wild card and get him in. But like if he blanks against Brighton and scores against Leicester, I think that's not a sell for me. But you would expect him to score against Leicester, so it's not that you have to get him in. So it would probably a wild card would give me time to assess how he is playing, how City is playing, because at home, I think it's a perfect time for me to see if City are like, in their end of the season mode. If not, then I think maybe on a wildcard, I can either delay my wildcard or just try to get in more assets, given that I only have 6 or 7 game weeks to target.
Makes sense. Puneet, where did you land after all this discussion? What's sort of your bottom line for
I think
generally speaking, not your team specific?
I think y'all have made a very good case. And just one call out there would be the fact that they could have a double in the near future. So if they do have a double, either in 33 or 36 or whichever it comes in, you are kind of getting him on much before others would. Like people would try to get him on during their wild cards whenever they do, but you could just have him before that. And if he does, so to your previous question as well, I think should you get him? 100% you should get him because you have Leicester coming in. Um, it might also save you maybe point 0.1, point 0.2 by the time other people get him in their wild card. So There is definite sense in doing that.
Yep. And one more point on that is we discussed yesterday, like till last game week, he's less than 1.5% owned. And so such an amazing asset if you're getting at that time when he is such less owned. Anything you get from him would should give you like massive greens. So definitely makes sense for a lot of people. Yeah. All right. I think on that's it on Haaland. I think we all sort of
Yeah,
agree that we should get him if you can, but it's okay to sort of wait and see if your team is already in a good place. That wouldn't be the end of the world if you get to keep your other major assets. All right. FPL Eagles Eye. Again, FPL Eagles Eye is basically our punts for the week. Um, Players who we think would perform good and sort of are going maybe under the radar a little. Um, Essen, you want to go first?
yeah. I think Strand Larson and Gibbs White. Gibbs White is basically just like, at least in my eye, the equivalent of Clivert. Playing as the number 10, involved in every build-up, on set pieces, as a very good focal point. So I think he becomes an easy pick. And similarly, Strand Larson, in the absence of Cunha playing Southampton away, I think it's a no-brainer also. So yeah, both of these are pretty much, they pick themselves. So those on a free hit, or even actually wanting to get a player for the long run, I think Gibbs White makes more sense. But on a free hit, I think you can go for Strand Larson.
Puneet?
Like, mine is a one straight forward Southampton target, and I was looking about and reading articles from the Wolves fan club in Reddit and other places, and Bellegarde is someone who they have recommended will start. So Bellegarde for me, because you're targeting Southampton just for this game week, and Southampton are always targetable. And Semenyo because Evan Nielsen is back. And if you remember during the early season when Evan Nielsen started, Semenyo used to attack a lot, had a lot of shots. And with people not focusing on Clivert and Evan Nielsen, I think Semenyo is a pick which you could really benefit from.
Cool. For me, it's Raul Jimenez, primarily because, like Southampton, I think everyone should also be targeting the Tottenham fixture. So he then becomes one of the picks for me. And then Vardy. Like Vardy, there is no footballing sense. Like data wise, it doesn't make sense. But Vardy playing against Manchester United at home, like there has to be some drama. Like there has to be a goal, and then he celebrates on the post, and then he does some shit. So Vardy is purely punty if you're a wild card, and yeah,
This
that's
is
just my
this reminds
punt
me
for the
of
week.
4, 5, 6 years ago where Raul Jimenez and Vardy were like in everyone's team. So that's like really nostalgic picks from you.
Vardy is a legend, man. Cool. Lastly, not lastly. So very quickly, this is basically all of us picked one player for each position on a free hit draft. So, so basically, yeah, SN has the whole goalkeepers, defender, midfielder, attack. So let's just do goalkeepers, all of us together. So SN's goalkeeper is Cells.
Yeah,
I
purely
then I
fixture
have
based and
for
form.
Puneet has Leno. Uh, I don't know if you should go into each player because that'll be like 16 players to discuss.
Yeah,
But like, let's just overall go through it. Defending wise, SNS Delict. You want to like quickly on Delict. This is one of
yeah,
the differential ones. Why?
yeah.
You
This mainly because if you remember that Harry Maguire scored. Puneet, you can back me up on this. That he scored some decent goals and mainly on set pieces. And when in Harry Maguire's absence, I think Delete becomes that set piece focal point. So I think he's a good differential. And for my mid and forwards, I had both of them in my eagle eye, so I think they just pick themselves here also.
on defenders, I have Guardiol. Uh, don't need to discuss it. Very obvious. And Puneet has Mazraoui, and I'm guessing that's also primarily because he's more of the attacking wing backs against a
Wing
weaker
back,
defense.
yeah.
Yeah. Midfielders we've discussed Bellegarde and Morgan Gibbs White. And then I have Bruno Fernandes, which is also, we don't really need to discuss a lot. He is on penalties. He's been on red hot form. SN has had him for the last 2 weeks, and he's reaped the 19 points in the last 2 weeks. So Bruno is good, and again playing against Leicester. Forward wise, we've discussed all three. So yeah, these are our picks for each position for the free hit players to sort of consider. And lastly, our team for the next week. So let's go one by one and discuss what our plans are for the week. Puneet, I think your plans are longer than us, so go for it first.
I think you all mentioned the right point. I'm going a bit YOLO now with regards because I've gone down to 2 million again. So why not? Let's try and gain back as much as I can. So I'm
And some
going with a
context on 2 million for the users. Puneet, like in the last 4 or 5 weeks, he jumped up 600k something
yeah,
rank,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then last week the captain decision, like Salah versus non-Salah, that was
kind of
like
backfired. Yeah,
that was
yeah,
like suicide.
great point. Yeah, climbed from 2.4 to 1.6, like almost 800k in like a few game weeks, and then like one game week has kind of taken back. But then again, now it's made more fun for me.
That's
Uh,
FPL for you.
yeah, so I'm mostly going with three players, and my target, like we have been hyping up Haaland in this episode, so please, if you also like are like one of us who wants to hype up and get him on the Haaland train, like, share, and subscribe this video, please. So one of my hits is for Haaland. And the reason, and after you do Haaland, I have to take Salah out. I'm not doing Palmer just for this game week because I feel that Palmer is a captain asset in 32, which is Ipswich, and Salah has Everton. I know we mentioned that Salah is not a sellable asset, and if you are in a good position, you shouldn't. Just because I'm uh, at a low rank is why I'm kind of taking that risk. So Haaland in for Isak, Salah, mostly Bruno. If not Bruno, then Clivert. My mind is also for Clivert at some places. So if you can see the image, it has Clivert because of Bournemouth fixtures that we mentioned, and then Guardiola in for Ta. So again, this is targeting two fixtures, three fixtures. I would mostly take a uh, wild card in 31. But yeah, this is my current. I can also do Welbeck to Wood, but that would require a -8, and I'm not sold on that. But the other three, I'm most likely to go ahead and do it.
Um, and uh, and you plan on bringing back Isak for on your wild
For the
card.
wild card, yes. So
Yeah,
31, I will. That's why I am planning this only for 2 or 3 game weeks, and I hope to hold on to Haaland till then. And if he scored 2 or 3 goals till 31, I think I would have gained at least a couple of points, or point 0.12 at least in his
value
price.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I'll go next. My current team is on screen. I have Trent, Rogers, and Watkins who are blanking from my starting 11 and who I look to replace. So my first transfer would be Watkins to Wood, Trent to Guardiol, and then my midfield spot is a bit open. So I'm considering between Savio or Bruno. Both have a lot of pros and cons, which I've been contemplating. So, for example, City's fixtures are amazing. Next fixture is also Leicester at home. Compared to Bruno has Leicester away right now, which is a good fixture, but contrastingly, Savio has Leicester at home. And then second fixture for Bruno is Nottingham Forest, which obviously is a superior defense um, right now. And so I'm sort of split between both. So I'll decide closer to the deadline, maybe after some of the city leagues come in, and I'll be doing this on a -4, which is my first hit of the season. But yeah, that's me.
Wow, that's very interesting to hear that that's your first hit.
Yeah, SN, you there? SN is off for a bit, so I'll go through his plan. So his plan basically right now is he has Dango Otara, and based on I think the discussion we already had, that's his only Bournemouth asset. Hence, he's looking to sideways move to Clivert, which I think that's a solid move. VVD, who's blanking to Milinkovic. SN, I was just going through your team. So So yeah, VVD to
No,
Milinkovic,
yeah.
and then captaincy is one thing we didn't spend too much time on. So in the last 2 minutes, captaincy this week, let's do one thing. So let's do captain. Obviously, Haaland is your captain if you have Haaland. So assuming you don't have Haaland, who should you captain?
I think Wood or Bruno would be like the obvious picks, at least in my case. But I've gone with Woods only because United have been playing very regularly, and I think fatigue might be an issue. So I would just go with Wood.
Puneet?
Yeah, I think Wood. I would just about rate Clivert higher than than Bruno. Sorry, only because Clivert has some. I mean, I know United are playing Leicester, and I want to keep it 50-50, but I still think Clivert has more to play than United in the Premier League. So hence Clivert above Bruno. So Wood, Clivert, Bruno for me.
Same. I think I'm with Wood. Priority one, but Clivert is my second captaincy option. Uh, but yeah, that's it for our Game Week 29 video, guys. If you have watched it till now, please do like and subscribe. We have spent a lot of time on this content, so we would really appreciate. And we will be back. There's a there's an international break after this game week, and we have also have FA Cup fixtures. So we'll have a lot of information coming in the next 10 days. So we'll do a video on the break as well, on some of the wildcard chip guides and other stuff. So that's all for now, and thank you for watching.